Hey everyone, it's Jenny from Haphazard Book Nook, and today I'm going to talk about my TBR for the year-long horror bingo. This horror bingo, it's a year-long event, was first created by Wicked Reading. This is the first year that she has it set up. It is a sort of similar horror, bingo for a full year to the Reddit fantasy one that they have, where there's like the regular mode and then the hard mode, and then you're just trying to read all the prompts and things that are on the bingo board. I'll go ahead and put the video that Wicked Reading put out down below, so that way you can see all of the rules and things there. I'm not going to go over all of the rules really. I'm just going to go over the different prompts and what I plan on reading for them currently, though it could change. So my friend Steph and I from My Kind of Steph are both going to be doing this. So we made our bingo prompt TBR choices pretty similar on a lot of them, just because we do a lot of buddy reads anyway. I think a couple of my other friends, if they decide to do it, probably will end up having a decent amount of similar ones as well, just because we all like to buddy read a bunch of them. And then with our Love and Horror book club, some of the books will work for these that we will be reading. So these are supposed to all be horror books. There's one of these I'm actually a little iffy on that Steph picked, and then when I was watching the video back, I was wondering if it would actually count, so I do have to look into it. So that one I probably will not give a TBR book for, but the rest of them I will go ahead and tell you what I am planning to read for these. This readathon goes from October of this year to September of next year. But she said that we could start at the end of September because that's what she's doing, just because, it's exciting and you want to get started on it. So my bingo board looks different than the original one. So I'll put the original one and then I will put my bingo board. I actually did change the way it looks a little bit, just because I like the cutesy aspect of bats and spiders and things more than how she had it, but I kept the same general style of it. I also added in the hard mode in a different color so that I would easily be able to know what those are without having to reference anything to be able to look at it other than the bingo board. So that is why mine looks a little bit different than hers. But I mean, you can go ahead and use hers or mine. I guess it doesn't really matter as long as they make sure to give her credit on the board, like how I kept the credit on the board for her. So for most of these, I'm just going to say what the prompt is and not what the actual title of the prompt is, just so that way it's easier for me to be able to get through these. So the first one is a book that was published in 2024, and you need to have it read by the end of 2024 if you're going to do hard mode. And for this one, we are doing Middle of the Night by Riley Sager. I'm really excited to get through this one. I've heard iffy things on it, but I'm still excited to see how I like it. The next book is going to be a book that is apocalyptic or end times, and this one for hard mode you have to have a epilogue. And for this one I'm reading Moon of the Crusted Snow. The next one is a book that is set on or around Halloween, and for hard mode it has to at least say in the book somewhere trick-or-treating. And so for this one I have chosen All Hallows, and I believe Steph is reading this one with me as well. The next one is Blood on the Cover, and this one has to be majority blood on the cover if you want to do hard mode. And for this one I have the Twisted Retreat edition, and it's mostly covered in blood, so this is what I'm counting, Blood Covenant. The next book is that it needs to be set in the woods or the forest, but for hard mode the cover cannot have trees on it. So for this one I'm going to be reading Camp Slaughter. So the next one is a classic, reading a book that references classics, or it's like a reimagination of a classic. And for hard mode you just have to read an actual classic, like the actual book. And so for this one I'm going to read The Most Dangerous Game. The next one is a book that is translated to your language, and then for hard mode it needs to have a translator's note, and for this one I'm going to be reading Jawbone. The next one is a book that is a complete cover pick and you do not know the synopsis of it. So this one really any horror book would count for me, because as anyone that watches this channel knows, I don't read synopsises. But I'm going to read Her Buried Lives. This was a book that I bought specifically because it was a special edition and it was a horror book, and so that's all I needed to know about it. The next one, and this one I will not give a book for, is a book that's dealing with a horror book, rather, that is dealing with grief, death sort of things, and then it has to have death personified for dark mode. And so for this one, I just want to make sure that our pick works. The next book is a book that has a spooky word in the title, and for hard mode you have to have 2 words in the title, and for this one I'm going to read The Devil in the Dark Water, and then the 2 spooky words are going to be devil and dark. The next book, you have to have reanimated corpses or zombies. And then for hard mode, it has to be part of a series. And so for this one, I'm going to be reading the second book in the book that starts with Rust-Colored Rain. The second one is A Safe Place to Die by Otto Schaefer. After that is a horror book that is a genre-bending horror book. And then for the hard mode, is the second genre has to be something that you don't typically read. So this one I'm going to read Vampires of El Norte because I don't really read historical books that often. Then is a 5-star read, which obviously I won't know until I get to it, but this one's hard mode is it has to be a 5-star prediction. So I'm just going to read books that I really think I'll like, and hopefully one of them becomes a 5-star and I'll get that one done. After that is one that has a BIPOC author, and for hard mode, you have to have not read from them before. So for this one, I'm going to read No Gods, No Monsters. The next one, and this one was really hard for me, is cryptids. And anybody who knows, I love cryptids. So the hard mode for this is that you can't know anything about the lore or what the cryptid is. So I had to find something that I had never heard of before, and so I chose The Terror by Dan Simmons, and I can't even pronounce what the creature supposedly is in this book. It's a big one, so it'll be interesting to see if I like it or not, but I'm excited to give it a go because I love cryptids, I love cryptid horror, and it's one that I don't know anything about. So the next one is the title has to have a number in it, and for hard mode it has to have 2 numbers in it. It could also be quantifiers, so it doesn't have to be an actual number. So for this one I chose 19 claws and a blackbird, so 19 being a number and then a being a quantifier that there's going to be a single blackbird. The following one is Satanic Panic, so this one is one that has to do like with magic, satanic-y things, and then for hard mode it has to have some sort of like an object, like a curse object or like Ouija boards or something. So I was told by Steph that Bone Pendant Girls would work for this one, so that is what I'm going to be going with. The following one is a book club pick. There is no hard mode for this one, but I mean, we run a book club that has horror books, so we're just going to count the October book club book, which is The Butcher Game, as our pick for this one. The next book is a pink horror book or women's horror or things surrounding womanhood or girlhood. And then for hard mode, it has to be a debut. So for this one, we are going to be reading Eyes Are the Best Part because this is actually going to be our next Twisted Retreat book we're going to be getting. After that, it is going to be multiple POVs. And then in addition to that, if you want to do hard mode, it has to have multiple timelines. So for this one, we are going to be reading When the Night Bell Rings. The following one is a book that has been made into a movie, and then for hard mode, you can't have seen the movie yet. And so for this one, I'm going to be reading House by Frank Peretti. The following one is going to be a book that is out of your comfort zone, like a subgenre that's out of your comfort zone, and by an author that you have read before. So I'm going to be reading The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. I don't really care for Stephen Graham Jones, so that's already out of my comfort zone, but also it's like almost like historical sounding, but like cosmic horror maybe, and I'm not really that into cosmic horror, so it'll be really interesting to see how that one goes. All right, and then we're almost to the end. The next one is going to be a short story collection, and for hard mode it has to have 12 or more short stories. So for this one, I'm going to be reading Small Horrors by Darcy Coates. This has 50 short stories in it, so definitely fits that bill. The following one is going to be a TBR vet. And then for hard mode, it just has to be like one of the oldest books on your TBR. So for this one, I'm going to read one of the only Grady Hendrix books I haven't read and it's just because I haven't owned it yet, but it's been on my radar since I started reading Grady Hendrix books for years and years and years. I'm going to be reading We Sold Our Souls. And then the last one is Creepy Crawlies. And then this one is just a book that includes Creepy Crawlies. And then the cover needs to have Creepy Crawlies on it. So for this one, I'm going to read Never Whistle at Night. This is a short Indigenous horror novella, or short Indigenous anthology, short story. Anyway, and I can almost guarantee that at least one of them is going to have Creepy Crawlies in it, but the cover is covered in Creepy Crawlies, so that will work perfectly fine. All right, so that is my TBR for the year-long horror bingo. Go ahead and let me know if any of these sound good to you, if you're going to participate in this, if there's anything I should sub out, or anything you think won't fit what the prompt is that I put it in. Just let me know. If a book doesn't fit the prompt, in your opinion, go ahead and leave an alternate if you can. And then go ahead and like and subscribe if you want to, and have a good rest of your day.